These days, a lot of charges are being leveled against the God of the Old Testament, one of the most popular now being, we call God a moral monster. So let's tackle this real briefly, just a few of the main charges and some responses. So first, God is arrogant. He's always demanding people worship him and honor him and kowtow to him. But for heaven's sakes, this is not, I would say arrogance is an inflated view of yourself. Oh, I'm so much better. People ought to honor me. Well, God's not full of an inflated opinion about himself. He is far superior to us. And frankly, any time that we're doing worship, it's not for God. It's for us to remind us where we are in the grand scheme of things. So I don't see a problem with that. How about the Old Testament laws? You ever heard the complaint that, oh, they're all weird and, worrying about certain kinds of meats and don't do this and do that? Well, think about this. The Old Testament, these laws were set up to be part of a theocracy. In other words, this is a very different nation. This is a nation ruled by not a civil leader, but by God, a religious leader. And so a lot of these laws were set up to remind the Jews of their special relationship with God. A lot of them were symbolic. For example, clean and unclean animals. I'll just give you one example. Any animal that inhabited two different kingdoms, like on the land as well as the sky, was considered unclean. You had to stick to the one kingdom or another so you didn't confuse things. So the laws were different than we're used to today, but we're not under those laws as Christians. Another complaint about those laws is that they're cruel, an eye for an eye, people going around stoning each other and things like that. But these laws, if you compare them to the laws of the societies around them, were really tame. And yes, there were several laws, several things that could happen to you if you committed some kind of crime. Murder could be one, of course, and stealing and disrespect to parents and things like this. And people look at that and say, you're going to put to death people that did all these things? That was in the law, yes, but it did not have to be carried out that way. In fact, murder was the only reason to actually put somebody to death. You could pay penalties and fines and take care of some of those other moral laws that you broke. What about the idea of women? People go back to the Old Testament and they'll say, well, look, in Genesis it says, woman is to be a helper for a man. And it sounds like the little lady's going to be in the kitchen cleaning up all the time and bringing him his slippers and bringing his food. What would you like next, dear? That's kind of how we see helper. But in the Old Testament, there are other places where, in Psalms, for example, where God himself is called a helper. And so we're talking about a strong ally. That's probably a better word. So when God is creating woman for man, it's to be an ally. And when you go to war, you want the strongest ally you can get. And so a woman stands alongside a man as a great ally. What about slavery? It's condoned in the Bible. Well, people are thinking about the American South when they think about slavery. That's called chattel slavery. That was not what it was in the Old Testament. That was indentured servitude. You served for a number of years, and then you were out. And so it was a good way to pay off debt and get yourself set up and moving along in society. Here's one more issue, ethnic cleansing. They went in and they just cleaned the land of all the people that were there. God hated those people. He didn't like their skin color. Not true. This was not genocide. These were people being punished for sin. They had been told for years and years and years that judgment was coming. And God did some of the same things to his own children of Israel because they sinned. And some people believe that when it talks about wiping out men, women, and children and decimating things, that's hyperbole. It's exaggerated language. It was very popular in that time period. We do the same thing today. We talk about, we killed them, talking about a sports event. No, you didn't. You may have beat them badly, but you didn't kill them. So these are at least some of the issues that are brought up about God. Take a look at my website. I've got more extensive discussions of these.